On this week's Gridiron Report, we have an absolute worst case scenario playing out for the Detroit Red Wings right now, and it's all brought to you by Pins and Aces, our favorite spot for all your golf apparel needs. Use promo code GRIT, that's GRIT, at checkout for 21% off any product at pinsandaces.com. Let's get into it.
In the heart of the city where the lights grow dim, grit and grind every inch, every rim. From the underdogs rising to the legends that win. It's the Gridiron Report, let the games begin. Every highlight's a journey, roads paved with fire, sweat, tears, and hustle that never expire. From the rookies on the rise to the old hands retire. Gridiron is the place for fans to conspire. Hustle on blast, beats thundering loud. Champions are born from the roar of the crowd. The Gridiron Report, where the stories are proud. Tune in, bring the
Welcome to the Gridiron Report, your Lions First All Detroit Sports podcast presented by Mic Drop Studios. Today is Wednesday, June 10th, and as I mentioned in the intro, we have almost, I guess a lot of people are saying, kind of could be like the Armageddon for the Detroit Red Wings. It's already been so bad for damn near a decade for the Detroit Red Wings. You kind of thought maybe on one hand this situation would play out eventually, but everyone was kind of just praying and hoping that it wouldn't. So we have all that to break down. Dylan Larkin officially requests a trade from the Detroit Red Wings. The hometown kid wants to leave the winged wheel. We're going to try and set the scene a little bit for all our listeners. We've talked a bunch of times here over the year or two we've been doing the show. Neither Kyle nor I are getting to the big, the weeds of the Red Wings of hockey, but we're going to do our best to set the scene. And then after the break, we're going to come back, play a little game, spin a wheel and see which side we're going to be debating. We're going to debate who's at fault here. It's much easier as a fan to have a villain and have somebody we could all be mad at, just like kind of gang together as a city and be mad at this one guy. So Kyle and I are going to debate who's the bad guy, who's to blame here, who's the most at fault, Dylan Larkin or the front office. But yeah, Larks officially asked out of Detroit. The hometown kid I never really thought, like I said, never thought this day would come, but I mean, it has. Here we are.
No matter how you slice it too, like it sucks. Even if you're maybe not the biggest Larkin guy, like it's always, you never want your first line center to be requesting a trade. It's like, it's pretty much worst case scenario, right? So let's just set the scene a little bit here. Like, yeah, Dylan Larkin just finished up his 11th season in the league. He's 29 years old. He makes $8.7 million per year. And yeah, the Red Wings are in the midst of a 10-year playoff drought. He's in his 11th season. He's never made the playoffs, or I guess he has made the playoffs, but maybe just in his rookie year. And then we're just in a horrible drought right now. And yeah, Larkin requests a trade. It was reported that there are just 3 teams that Larkin has requested to be traded to. It's the Minnesota Wild, the Florida Panthers, and the Vegas Golden Knights. So we can break down like what that really means, like because he's just requested this trade. He has, I think, another really important tidbit here. He has a no trade clause. So, if you can look at it and say Larkin has the leverage, no trade clause. Also, if he's specifying these teams, you can look at it from Stevie Y's perspective, and you could probably just tell Larkin to F off. You have 2 more years on your contract, bud. And yeah, you're under team control. We're gonna keep you. So yeah, I don't exactly know how all of this is going to play out, but just wanted to set the scene right there that, yeah, the Red Wings are under no obligation to trade our captain, our first line center. He still has a couple of years left on his deal.
So I want to go at this multiple different angles because, like you said, like I said during the beginning, like I'm not 100% like a huge hockey head. I'm going to do my best for a lot of our listeners who I know are also not super big in the NHL. They watch the Red Wings. I'm trying to like put this into terms of like NFL, NBA. I saw online a lot of people were equating this to like Matt Stafford with his time here in Detroit because it was a guy, a really solid guy here in Detroit, probably not like one of the best guys, not an MVP caliber kind of guy, put up great numbers here in Detroit, really went through some shit with the team. The city really grew around him. And then eventually kind of the rubber met the road and we just didn't get it done with him. And they got frustrated and, they as in Matthew Stafford got frustrated and then asked out. So like I see a lot of people online equating it to Matthew Stafford and his time here and then requesting out. I think it's a very good comparison for like our non-NHL fans to say like that's kind of thing. I think it's a little bit different. And just that like when Stafford And I don't even think Stafford actually ever ended up really requesting a trade. I think it just simply was the turning of the guard and Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell taking over and realizing like, hey, we need to reset this thing properly. This is our best piece. Let's go ahead and move it. I'm sure behind scenes Stafford was like, for sure, I'm very much okay with this. Like he didn't formally request it. So I think that's a good comparison to the NFL. I saw some other people online saying like I just said, like put this in NBA terms for me. Like I don't know the NHL, and some people are saying like imagine 3 years Cade Cunningham ass out, and I think I just want to say like that's so not accurate. Maybe you disagree, but like Cade Cunningham is a legit MVP caliber player.
Yeah.
He was top 4 in MVP votes. He was a first team All NBA. Like Larkin is very good. He was an All Star, multiple year All Star. Obviously, he was on Team USA. I don't think he really, in his what you said, 11 years he's been in the league. I don't think he's really ever sniffed, like a trophy. Was it Hart Trophy as the MVP? Like I don't think he's ever really come that close. So I want to kind of pump the brakes a little bit. Like imagine 3 years from now, Cade Cunningham asked out. I want to pump the brakes because it's not that dire. But I think the Matthew Stafford is kind of a good comparison.
Yeah, Stafford's a good comparison. The Cade Cunningham is a horrendous comparison.
Right.
Cade Cunningham is a top 10 player in the NBA. Dylan Larkin is not even a top 10 center. I can say that with pretty much absolute certainty. I mean, you just look at his numbers and like, yeah, I don't see him as a. I mean, obviously he's our first line center. He's not really the caliber of a first line center that you need on a playoff team. I know we're gonna get to who's actually at fault. But for me, you just look at his numbers and like, yeah, he's probably not even top 10 at his position, let alone in the league. So yeah, bad comparison there. But yeah, I digress. Continue.
I think that's a great point because I think on our team we've been bad for so long. Like the Wings, it's embarrassing that we've been bad for so long, and I'll get to specifically the teams that he's requesting to go to here in a second. But like we've been bad for so long because that's a great point. He's a 1C for us, but I think the realistic like value of a Dylan Larkin on another team, specifically the teams he requested to go to, because again, for all our non-NHL fans, he basically just put in NFL terms, he basically came out and said like, I will only go to Seattle, I'll only go to the Patriots, I'll only go to the 49ers, or I'll only go to the Chiefs. Like he basically just named the teams, and again, I'll get to those teams in a second and like specifically those teams, but he named like all like cup contending teams. And so, like on our team, he's a 1C. I think on any other real contending team, and I said this for a while, my thoughts on Dylan Larkin aside, he's a very good 2C, like a second line center. And I think that kind of lines up exactly to your point that like, yeah, he probably isn't even top 10 in his position. He's a very good 2C on a really good contending team. On our team, where we're like scratching and clawing to get the playoffs and haven't made it in almost a decade, he's a 1C. So like, I think that's just kind of like my opinion on that. Like let's pump the brakes on the comparing to Cade Cunningham. If Cade Cunningham acts out of Detroit, you will catch me never watching any sport ever again. Like that is the end of me. If Cade Cunningham wants out of Detroit, I will feel so. I probably won't even be mad at Cade. I'd be mad at the front office for not doing more. But I digress on that. That's a whole separate conversation. So you kind of said the same thing. You said he's a not even top 10 in his position. He's probably on one of those teams like a second line center, right? Like a good second line center.
Yeah, he'd be a fantastic second line center. Yeah, it's a fact of the matter. Like, look, on Team USA, he was a third liner, and that's just the U.S. team. Like, there's Canadian guys in the league too, and Russian guys, and Swedish Finnish. Like, I mean, there's so many good centers in this league that yeah, I just think that Larkin. You look at his body of work, you look at his stats. I mean, he's a hell of a player. He's still one of my favorite players in the league. But he's probably not going to be your top dog, and I think we do see that he hasn't been able to carry us to the playoffs, and I think better centers probably would have, but that's neither here nor there. I think yeah, if I just want to like zoom out a little bit and look at the market for first line centers, or again however you want to stack it, really good second line centers. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that the market right now is really thin on top line centers, and there's probably GMs that would overpay. And now, of course, he's saying, I only want to go to 3 teams, and then all of that leverage just kind of dissipated. The Knights are looking and saying, okay, now we really only have to bid against 2 other teams. It doesn't seem like there's much urgency. It seems like that really hurts our leverage, and for that reason. I just feel like nothing is going to happen before July 1st. And just for our listeners, this July 1st deadline has been thrown around a ton. Essentially, that's just when hockey free agency starts. And so that's when teams can start throwing money at other players. And really, it means that it's unlikely for a trade to happen after that point. So that's why it's being thrown around a ton. But yeah, I don't know. You name 3 teams. Now they don't have to bid against the other 28 teams in the league or whatever, 27 teams in the league. So yeah, I don't know. I don't see it. I don't see it likely. I feel like, Larkin's kind of throwing a bit of a hissy fit for, probably good reason. But yeah, this might be a nothing burger for me.
I think, and we'll get to, after we get back from the break again, we're going to debate really who's to blame here. And just like a peek behind the curtain, we're going to do a live spin wheel or, spinning wheel. So Kyle and I don't know who we're going to be arguing and debating for. So I'm taking a little bit of what you were just mentioning. I have a few things in my mind about who's really to blame here. I want to dive into the 3 teams. I already kind of mentioned the 3 teams that he requested to go to, being obviously top tier teams. And we'll get into a little bit more here after the break, but those teams don't necessarily have that much that they can offer. Obviously these are teams that are already contending, so they don't. That means likely they've already gone in and won all in one way or another. They've gone all in free agency and don't have that much money that they can offer. They've already kind of sold off all their assets in order to go all in and try and win the Stanley Cup. So there's not that much they can offer. But the one thing that really stands out for these 3 teams, you mentioned the Team USA that Larkin was on. I kind of feel like, I know like you said, he was a third line center there. He kind of. Larkin's very good. He's a very good, like we said, you can debate on what you think his value actually is in this league. I kind of thought with the USA team, he's almost he's a very nice veteran presence in the league at this point. Like you mentioned, he's been in the league over 10 years. A lot of people like him. He grew up playing hockey with a lot of the guys. I almost feel like on that USA team, it was almost oh, we can't have Team USA without Larkin. So he's kind of brought on there. He kind of was a very veteran presence in the locker room. Obviously it played out very well. We won gold, but coming from there, a lot of players, and we talked about on this show, a lot of players, his numbers, he had a 1 game-winning goal or end up getting game-winning goal. He played pretty well, but a lot of players just came from the tournament and said oh yeah, behind the scenes, Larkin was a huge reason we had success and were able to beat Canada and win the gold. The 3 teams that he requested to go to all specifically have 1, if not 2 guys from the U.S. Olympic team on roster already. So it's kind of not only is he requesting to go to these top tier teams, he's very obviously being oh, I want to go play with my buddies. And so that's very interesting that it's you just wonder how what conversations were being had during the Olympic break in which these guys, you got to think about these guys. Detroit Red Wings is one of the most historic franchises in all of sports. There was a run that you could say the 90s, early 2000s San Antonio Spurs were a huge dynasty. The Detroit Red Wings had a dynasty that rivaled any other franchise in all sports. But you got to think about these guys are 21, 22, 23 years old. A lot of these guys that were 8 years old the last time the Detroit Red Wings were in the playoffs and had any sort of success, because we kind of even towards the end of the playoff run, we were kind of just scratching and clawing and basically just getting in to keep the streak alive. Kind of like what Tom Izzo's been doing a little bit in the past, for a few years there. He was just we're just happy to get in the tournament. And so even when we were getting in, we were getting absolutely smoked. So a lot of these guys that are younger don't know the historical franchise that the Detroit Red Wings is and the Winged Wheel. So I can't imagine what the conversations were like in the Olympic locker room. Yo, Larks, you got to get out of that city. They don't know how important it is to put on the Winged Wheel, and you being oh, dude, you got to come play with us. Detroit's what a shitty franchise. Come play with us. Have success. I can only imagine that his friends were just absolutely leaning on him during that break, and really played a role in this trade request.
Probably that could be it for sure. He's got guys talking in his ear, but I think for me it's just the heartbreak, the sheer heartbreak that the entire Red Wings team has gone through the past 3 seasons, where you are competing throughout much of the season and then you just collapse every March. I know that's weighing heavily on Larkin. Yeah. I think he's been quoted saying this is. I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but he was absolutely devastated after this season. I think the same thing can be said. Yeah, I think he said I'm as down as I could be. That was right after we got eliminated from the playoffs this season. So yeah, I think that you can only lose so much with one organization before you're like, "Ah, maybe I just need to change of scenery." You see guys, have change of sceneries all the time in professional sports, and a lot of times it does work out. And I do think that if Larkin left, he would find some success, probably on a second line somewhere where he can just absolutely thrive. But yeah, it's tough, man. No matter how you slice it, I don't see Vegas as being a destination. Logistically, it just doesn't work. I mean, they're quite literally playing right now in the Cup Finals as we speak. They have like zero cap space. They have limited prospects, limited picks. They're a team that goes all in, and it works out really well for them. As they just scored a goal actually as I looked up. So yeah, I don't know. Like one of the three teams, I just think it's almost impossible for that to happen. Florida's the same boat for me. Like, yeah, you have some really good pieces. Maybe you could ship one off. I think that Yzerman has basically been quoted saying like, yeah, if this was to happen, they're not just in it for picks. I think not necessarily for Larkin, but just in general. Yzerman's not just in it for picks. He wants pieces too. He wants a young guy who can come in and compete. And so, yeah, I'm not sure I see it for Florida either, but certainly more than Vegas. Minnesota is the one that I see the most. Yeah. Quinn Hughes, you don't know. I mean, I'm assuming they're going to re-sign him, but as of right now, he's not under team control, I don't think. But you got some young guys in there. I think Charlie Stramel, former Michigan State Spartan, he's on the team now. They do have cap space. Another Midwest location. Don't know how much that matters, but yeah, Detroit, Minneapolis, more similar than they are not. So yeah, I don't know, man. I'm just looking at this whole situation and saying like, well, there's only three teams, unless Steve Yzerman like somehow expands that pool and talks with Larkin and says, hey, we're actually going to negotiate with 6 teams instead of 3. I see it unlikely that either side's going to find what they want. And really by that, I just don't think Yzerman's going to find what he wants, especially with this limited pool that he can negotiate with. He's already very stingy. We know that. We know he's kind of, sat on his hands and not done much for trade deadlines. I don't see him as being someone who's just going to be strong-armed into giving Larkin what he wants here.
Yeah. Okay. So so many different things. I've seen this on. I don't know any truth to this. I have a few buddies who knew Larkin pretty closely. Maybe I'll shoot them a text to see. I've seen a lot of things online that Larkin grew up a Maple Leafs fan, which is obviously kind of a Detroit Red Wings rival, meaning that the hometown kid didn't actually even grow up really rooting for the hometown team. So maybe and that was obviously not a team that was on his 3 wish list to go to. So maybe there is a chance that you could, and have not having looked at Toronto, I know they're kind of in a very similar spot to Detroit, and that the fans are ready to revolt, and they had no real success. No, they've had more success than us, but no real success recently in a historic franchise and stuff. So maybe they'd be interested in that. I agree with you in that the only of the 3 he provided, the only chance that anything is going to get done is going to be with Minnesota. Obviously, I don't think it would ever include anything with Quinn, just because Quinn is obviously a good friend of Larkin's. That he's probably the main reason that Larkin requested to go to Minnesota was included in there, because he wants to play with Quinn. Going back to the trade deadline, Quinn Hughes basically all but said, yeah, I want to be traded. It was already open out there that Quinn Hughes was being traded at the trade deadline. He basically all but said, I want to go to Detroit. It was basically a done deal. The report was that Yzerman said he will only trade for Quinn if Quinn agrees ahead of time that he's going to sign long-term here. He don't want to give up any pieces for Quinn just to the moment he gets to Detroit. Then it obviously all fell through. Quinn went to Minnesota. Minnesota went to the playoffs. Everything, now we're looking at losing Larkin to Minnesota as well. So looking back, maybe, and I think if Quinn had come here and played with Dylan and, his Olympic teammate, I think maybe there's a good chance we could have kept Quinn Hughes and kind of built off this thing. So kind of looks back to the trade deadline and that not happening. But the other kind of salt in the wound, on top of possibly if we would have just traded for Quinn, none of this would have happened. We'd be better off. The other guy, you mentioned Charlie Stramel, that's with the Wild, a former Spartan who likely would probably have to be involved in any sort of trade to Detroit. The other one that's very heavily involved in mock trades and anything that has Larkin go to the Minnesota Wild would be Jesper Wallstedt, the goalie that's in Minnesota at the moment. The reason that would be even more salt in the wound is because Detroit really had their choice of goalies in the draft class that they took. Sebastian Cossa. They ended up choosing Sebastian Cossa over Jesper Wallstedt. whilst it has turned out to be, at least at the moment, a better goalie than Kosa, there's been a lot of bad juju and bad stuff going on with the goalies in the minor leagues for Detroit. A lot of question marks around Trey Augustine and Sebastian Kosa and not being called up, really, either one of them. Either way, like, to have to then trade, like, we didn't go after Quinn Hughes, and that's what kind of forced this whole thing. And then B, have to trade Larkin and get in return a goalie that we could have just had from the draft in the first place, and we just kind of picked the wrong guy. Just would be an absolute, just another, more salt in the wound that I don't think Detroit fans need on top of that. But I will say, and we can get to a break here in a minute and then go to our debate here shortly. You said that you kind of think this could just be a big old nothing burger, because that's obviously another large chance that could happen here, because Larkin has his no movement clause, but he's also under contract for another 2 more years. So like there's a world in which Yzerman is just like, yeah, no, you gave us 3 teams, we couldn't get the deal done, see you at practice, and then like all hell could break loose because Larkin might sit out, and that's your captain sitting out. Like, is there a chance that, like, what do you, if you were to put like a ranking of most likely, we trade him, we deny him and just say like you'll see him in practice, or you kind of go the other way and you say, okay, I hear you. I hear you're frustrated. I hear the fans are frustrated. Let's add. This is the time. Like, nuts on the table. Let's do this thing. Like, you stay here. We're going to build around you. We're going to go and get guys. What do you think the likelihood of those 3 opportunities?
I think option 3, I think, is most likely. You talk about option 1, like, Steve Yzerman tells Larkin to piss off, you're under contract. Larkin holds out. I don't see that as being likely. The first part maybe, but the second part, hockey players just don't strike me as guys who are going to hold out like that. Like maybe a NFL or NBA player might. They just like he's a captain. I don't see that, but what I do see, I love what you said about option 3. This could all be just a tactic. Larkin was
Feet to the fire,
very very public after the 2025 trade deadline that he's unhappy. We didn't make any moves. The locker room was definitely felt the presence of or the lack thereof presence of guys at the deadline. And so Steve Yzerman went out in 2026 and he did get a couple pieces at the deadline. Of course, didn't quite help us and we still didn't get over the line. But maybe this is another, piece, a chess piece that Larkin is moving now and saying like, hey, you know what, you can trade me. And Yzerman wakes up and says, all right, we actually got to do something big. We have the cap. We have young talent in our pipeline, probably a lot of talent that you could ship off to, maybe with a few picks to go in win now mode. We have not been in win now mode, or at least not nearly to the extent that we need to make the playoffs. So that could be a piece that Larkin's moving. I do see that as being likely. For me, the homer, I want Larkin to stay. I also want more help around him. I would love for like this to be the kick in the nuts that Yzerman needs to go out there and make a splash.
I think the last thing I'll say about this, because I mean, that's obviously best case scenario. Like, this is Armageddon for Detroit right now. Like, the world is falling. That's obviously best case scenario. Like, we go out and say like, yeah, okay, this is his last card to play, and it works, and we build, and if nothing else, this is gonna force the team to shit or get off the pot. And it's either A, we're gonna do that. We're gonna be like, all right, fine, we're gonna build. You're right. We went out and got Justin Falk at the trade deadline. That was a large move for Yzerman comparatively to what he's done before. But it obviously didn't get us quite there. So this is going to be like, okay, we're going to continue that. We're going to go all in, or, and it's going to suck, tremendously. But you look at this team outside of Justin Falk, who obviously just got added at the trade deadline, who's just a tiny bit older. Like, Larkin is the only one, in my opinion, that like clock's ticking for. Like the timeline, we got to get this thing going, because suddenly we're gonna blink and he's gonna be out of his prime. If you do have to end up moving him, suddenly it depends on how you move him, but now suddenly you're just fully focused on the Mo Seider and the Lucas Raymond timeline, and you can kind of focus on like, okay, those guys are now approaching, getting into their prime. They're not over the prime. Like Larkin, in my opinion, other than again Justin Falk, who we just added at the deadline, it was the only one who it's like, oh shit, clock's really starting to tick. We gotta shit or get off the pot here. So you ship him out. At the very least, this should, and I say should because, like I said, there is a chance that like we just say like tough shit, see you at practice, and then hell breaks loose. But like, this should make us shit or get off the pot. We're gonna soft reset and start building around the Mo Seider and the Lucas Raymond timeline. Bring up our goalies, bring up some of the kids, and some of the young guys, the Emmett Finneys and the the Nate Danielsons we can bring up and like start to see what that new timeline has in store for us, or we go all in and we're going to try and at least go for it once in the Dylan Larkin timeline. At the very least, maybe you can take that as a win, solace out of this in any way. I don't know.
I think that would kind of suck. Like it basically just in another little tank rebuild, and like hopefully your young guys pan out. I mean, some of our young guys we already know are absolutely panned out, but a lot of guys you mentioned are still pretty young. They would absolutely not like that.
That's just not. I mean, that's just glass half full. I guess I would rather have that than just him saying. I mean, and you mentioned the NHL is different than the MLB, NBA, NFL, just because like we see players hold out all the time in those leagues. And the I agree with you. NHL is different, but dude, it's a different NHL these days. Like the NHL of old, the players didn't demand trades. Like you sat through and granted, you usually had teams that like didn't put you through what we've put Larkin through, and we kind of eventually get. This is obviously with the longest, one of the longest playoff drought in NHL history. So like normal players don't have to go through this, but like NHL is changing, dude. They're for better or for worse. These players are changing a little bit, so like maybe he will stick true to his guns and hold out. I don't know. Like you said, a lot's going to come July 1st.
It's definitely more of a players' league now. I agree. It's definitely changing. So who knows? Maybe he will hold out.
We know. Who knows? So let's go to a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to play a little game. Again, we're going to debate who's at fault here. It's very easy, or it's much easier, I should say, when we're all united, hating on one person. We can all be mad at Chris Ilitch for not going all in with the Tigers and stuff. We can be mad at Monty Williams for being a terrible coach. When we have one enemy, we can kind of gang up behind that. So Kyle and I are going to debate that real quick to decide we can decide once and for all who the enemy is here after this break. All right, we are back with segment 2. We're gonna have a little bit of fun during the off season. I know we're getting into the summer months. We're getting into NFL and Lions OTAs, stuff like that. During the remainder of the Lions off season, we're gonna try and work in a lot more of these games, these debates, these Mount Rushmores, these blind rankings, just to try and keep the show fresh, try and stay away from just straight recaps and have a little fun with it. So today we're going to be doing a blind debate for who's at fault here. Did Dylan Larkin fail the Detroit Red Wings, or did Steve Yzerman and the front office fail Dylan Larkin? Again, as I mentioned in the first half, Kyle and I do not know who's going to be arguing which side. We have the wheel of names here to show us. We're going to spin this real quick, take a quick break to decide and kind of bolster whatever argument side we're on, and then we'll come back with our debate. So let's go ahead and get this spinning to see who's going to be. So we're going to say, obviously, it's a 50-50. Kyle, this first spin is going to be for you. So whatever this lands on is going to be for you. You are going to be arguing. Let's see what we come out with.
Oh, fun.
Okay. So, Kyle, you now are blind debating that the Detroit Red Wings failed Dylan Larkin in his tenure here. That obviously means I'm going to be arguing that Dylan Larkin failed the Detroit Red Wings in his time here in Detroit, the hometown kid. We're going to just take a second, gather our thoughts, and then we'll get this debate going.
Nice.
Okay, so we are back. We have gathered our thoughts. Again, I'm going to be arguing that Dylan Larkin failed the Detroit Red Wings. I'm glad I got this side. Obviously, it was a 50-50 chance. I'm glad I got, because I truly do feel this way. Obviously, if I had the other side, I would have been able to argue it. But I'm going to start with my opinions on why Dylan Larkin failed the Detroit Red Wings. And first and foremost, my main points are going to be Dylan Larkin failed the Detroit Red Wings. One, for the continuous collapse that he has in March, every single March. And I know we talked about how he isn't technically probably a 1C on a better team. He's, better suited for a 2C. It doesn't matter. He's the captain for the winged wheel. Every single March, he has led the drop off. He has led the collapse down the stretch, almost like in a historic way. It's historic. It's almost funny how every single year the same thing happens to this team, and that 100% is all leadership led. Like I don't think it's really an effort thing, but you as the leader, as the captain, you continuously cannot year after year after year after year after year after year collapse down the stretch when the pavement hits the road or the rubber hits the road, and you got to get going and make the playoffs, make that final push. I think that's one major part. I think even after he kind of just almost bolstered my argument in his, and we mentioned it during the first segment, his only wanting to go to 3 teams. I think that, like you mentioned, that absolutely just takes away any sort of, like, failing the Red Wings in general, like during his play, is kind of that aside. Okay, that's, you want to leave Detroit, you're not happy here, whatever. Absolutely zapping any sort of leverage that you had, that the Detroit Red Wings have, to try and make this move for you, to try and make you happy, try and make it work for both sides, absolutely was wiped away by saying, I'm going to these 3 teams, and doing it publicly. If you went to the front office and said, like, hey, let's be honest here, it hasn't been great my tenure here, we're not getting it done. Him and Steve Yzerman truly never saw eye to eye. I talked to a number of different people that said, like, they just never really were on the same page. Then, and behind closed doors, he's like, hey, I want to be moved. I would like to go to these 3 teams. If anyone else gives you better offers, like, let's discuss it. But no, it got leaked to the media that he wants out and he wants to go to those 3 teams. So not only has he just let us down for the last 5, 6, 7 years, also in the way he went about his trade just absolutely destroyed any leverage that the Detroit Red Wings had.
Okay, you were cooking.
It felt a little yucky. That felt a little yucky. I'm not gonna lie, but hey, that's the game we're playing.
Yeah, you were cooking there for sure. I will see your yuckiness and raise you that, yeah, this is a case against Yzerman, man. This is a case against the Detroit Red Wings front office, specifically, obviously, Steve Yzerman. 4 consecutive trade deadlines in which the team is in a prime position, a young team, a thriving team, and you're playing really well throughout through the month of February. The trade deadline comes and you do nothing. In 2024, literally didn't make a single move. I'm almost positive on that. 2025, Craig Smith, Peter Mrazek, like, really, you brought back in Peter Mrazek, like that was going to be your ace in the hole to get into the playoffs. 2026, yeah, we talked about this season. It was better than most. Justin Falk, 34-year-old defenseman, but still, like, defensemen, they age like fine wine, and Justin Falk is still a fine player. David Perron, reunion tour, he's 38 years old. Didn't really do much there. So yeah, I mean, just all in all, the body of Steve Yzerman's work over 4 seasons, when the team needs him most, they do nothing at the trade deadline. That's huge. That's not the only thing, though. You can point the finger a bunch of different ways at coaching hires, but the Red Wings have been in just coaching chaos for years now. I mean, like, Derek Lalonde fired midway through the 2024-2025 season. Granted, I am happy with the coach currently, but still, like, I mean, that you lose all momentum when you fire a coach mid-season, and still they had a decent season there, but it's mid-season coaching changes. It's extremely destabilizing, and that's really tough on a team to just not have the correct guy in there. Third thing that I'll say, what is the biggest thing that you see in the playoffs? You see a hot goalie, a team with hot goalies, they go far. We have been in a goalie crisis for 3 or 4 seasons now. I mean, you have guys like Cam Talbot as a starter, primary starter, and like from 2023 to 2025, basically. We haven't had playoff goaltenders. 2026 was obviously better. Gibby was great, but besides Gibby, we have lost a lot of winnable games because our goaltending has been absolute shit. I mean, you look at the DV, you can point fingers at the defense too, but for me, it's goaltending. That's roster management. I haven't seen much from Steve Yzerman to say, like, he can pick a good goalie and get us in a good position. So, and last thing I'll say, dude, cap management as a whole, the Wings have had cap. They consistently spend less than playoff teams. I have just, a couple numbers in front of me. The Florida Panthers, they spend about $95 million a year, near the ceiling of their cap. Boston Bruins, $95 million a year. Minnesota Wild, $93 million a year. Carolina Hurricanes, $94 million a year. Detroit Red Wings, $85 million per year on average over the last 3 or 4 seasons. They are not spending like a playoff caliber team, not even close. I don't know why we want to be all flexible when we have young talent now. We have, it's an NHL league where any team can win. Yes, there have been teams at the top. They've been the teams that have gone all in. You see a team like, the Panthers, they're going all in. They go and get Matthew Tkachuk. Like that was a blockbuster trade. It was huge. They're willing to spend. I get that it's different. And, there is no state income tax in states like Florida and Texas. They can spend more because of that. They can give players less and they're actually still making more because of that. So yeah, it's a huge advantage. I'm not going to sit here and say it's not, but still, I mean, you can win a cup in a state outside of those two states. I'm almost positive that it's happened before in the league. So yeah, it's just that the Red Wings have not been spending. They've been timid. They're timid at the deadline. They're timid when it comes to cap. Roster management has not been anywhere near where it should be. And so I think the brunt of the blame should be on Yzerman.
I think in this debate, in this blind debate we're doing, I think majority, I want to say like because you absolutely just cooked there. I feel like a majority of people are on the same side as you, until Larkin went ahead and pulled the antics that he did with the requesting publicly the three teams. We already talked about the lack of any sort of pieces that really could come our way. You brought up the coaching changes. I think. Yes, the coaching changes and everything that's brutal mid-season, but a lot of even when we got when we fired Lalonde and the guys got brought in, one of the main things that he was frustrated with this team was saying like, yeah, just play fucking hockey. Like when he got brought in, McClellan. he was saying like, yeah, this team is just fucking soft, and he multiple times we've heard what's his name? His name's escaping me.
Todd McClellan.
Yeah, McClellan. Multiple times we heard Tom McClellan be like, yeah, there's like strange comments to the media being like, there's a lot of guys out there that are just wearing the jersey and like not doing anything. And like, if that's the case, that is 100% on leadership to be like, hey, either like, hey, let's try and figure this out together, or like get on your own guys and be like, yeah, you're just fucking out there skating. You're just getting cardio. Like do something, show something. It was almost multiple times over the tumultuous coaching changes of the last 3 to 4 years has been brought in. Like it's just an effort issue. It's like, yeah, obviously the roster could be constructed better, but you got a number of different guys on this team that are what most people would consider franchise players. A lot of it's been an effort thing, and that's 100% on the captain. And so if you want to argue that like, yeah, Larkin probably shouldn't have been the captain in the first place, I personally, like even like my having to debate this side aside, no pun intended, I don't know if I was actually ever convinced that Larkin deserved to wear the C. I think it was a perfect storm of the hometown kid, went to Michigan, super fast skater, like yeah, a really good young prospect. He made an all-star team in this speed skating contest, like his first season or something like that. So like it all was just kind of a perfect storm to lead him to be our next guy and the next guy to wear the captain on his jersey. But like I don't know if I ever believed that he ever really had that leadership quality in him. I mean, just looking at some of the numbers of like Larkin's numbers in particular when Steve Yzerman took over. So Yzerman took over in 2019, I think. Larkin's played in 490 games. In 2019, Larkin was coming off of a 73-point season with a -6 rating. It would be 4 full seasons until he would reach 70 points again over that time. In those years, only twice was he a plus player. In 2023, 2024, he was a +5. And then this past season, it was a +3. So neither of those times, like I just don't think necessarily he was like the right guy in the first place to lead this team. And I think that he just never really panned out to be the leader and the captain that the Wings needed him to be, to prove like I said, either A, prove on the ice, like I'm going to drag this team to the playoff if it's the last thing I do, or B, be like, hey, let me get the best out of our guys and show that like I mean business, and like maybe that'll leak out into the front office and we'll finally go out and trade for someone.
Yeah, and now that we're, we both said our piece, right? I think that, it's probably a mixture of both. It's on Larkin, it's also on Steve Yzerman and on this front office. But yeah, if you look at Larkin's body of work, you were just breaking down his stats, and you compare it to other top line centers in this league, and not even top line, but just, centers on playoff teams, on championship teams. You just need more production out of your best center. You need 80 points, you need 85 points. I mean, 90 points is a ton, but yeah, that's kind of the going production of a center who's on a Stanley Cup team or a Stanley Cup playoff team, and Larkin is more hovering near that 69, 70 like points per season, which it's fine, it's good. Like you have 70 points in a season, like you had a solid season, but it's not a Barkov 90-point season, or like a Nick Point 85-point. It's not enough, and I think everyone can see that. So for me, it's like, well, if your best center is scoring 70 points, I think you need more around him. I don't know exactly what that would be. Another maybe offensive defenseman would be incredible. Another wing who can get it done too. They have guys on the wing who are damn good at playing hockey. So I don't exactly know what it is, but this team just needs more firepower, and they have for quite some time now.
I think moving forward, and in these blind debates, again, we're going to try and do more of these blind debates, blind rankings, Mount Rushmore, miscellaneous fun things to try and freshen up the offseason. Obviously, we're a Lions First podcast, so once we do get into the NFL season, we'll spend most of the episode breaking down all the Lions games. So moving forward, I'm going to try and look at these debates from a higher view and kind of just decide what side I'm falling on. This one, it's a hard one to start with because I agree with you. I think it 100% is both. I think up until, and I said it, up until Larkin, I would even say I'm mad that he did it publicly, but even until he released his 3 teams, I still would be on Team Larkin, even with him going public about it. That definitely hurts. But still, we can be okay, we don't have to trade him. I know he requested we don't have to trade him. You can still try and work the other teams against him. And so up until that point, it was all Steve Yzerman's fault, or Steve Yzerman was to blame. After that point, when we now have 3 teams and just zapped the Red Wings of any leverage they had, then I'm leaning towards being Steve or Dylan Larkin's the bad guy. So I feel like it truly is a mixture of the two of them here, and so I think both of us win this first blind debate.
I think we both win the blind debate, and also everyone's losing. The Red Wings are losing 100%. In this scenario. I think we can all agree on that. This is just bad. It looks like we've lost the locker room. It looks like obviously it's not that it looks like it is. Our center is very unhappy right now. He wants out. It's horrible for the Red Wings, and even us as fans. Everyone is losing right now until we can somehow figure it out. Both sides come to an agreement. Maybe get Larkin some help. Maybe a blockbuster trade might be right around the corner. I doubt it, but you never know. Until something like that happens, to cheer all of us up, we are in a bad spot right now as an organization.
The last thing I'll ask you, if that blockbuster trade out of Detroit, so obviously, like we said, we could have a blockbuster trade into Detroit, and we kind of just say all right, we don't call his bluff, we got him going all in. Say the blockbuster trade is outward of Detroit, and Larkin is sent out somewhere else. How far do you tear this down? I would assume Patrick Kane has no interest in staying here if Larkin's gone. Do you continue to tear it down and trade DeBrincat? Do you try and flip Justin Falk that we just got? How far do you tear this down? Do you tear it all the way down to that timeline of Raymond and Seider? Or do you try and keep whatever pieces you want you can? How far do you tear it down?
Yeah, I think if Larkin's gone... You look at, I don't want to say you're only looking at age, but it's absolutely a factor. Gibson gone, Justin Falk gone. These are guys that are in the back end of their career, and they don't laugh because I said Justin Fart. That is absolutely not what we're talking about right now. Yes, those guys for sure gone. I think that you do draw the line at a DeBrincat. He's still young, very much right in his prime. You build around him. You build around the younger guys. But yeah, anyone else, Kane for sure. You have to trade everyone, let them walk, whatever, depending on where they are in their contract. But you're definitely not giving more contracts to guys who are in their twilight years. When your 29-year-old center is gone, you have to prioritize the young guys. And for me, I don't like that. That just screams like another mini rebuild. It screams we're still not ready. We haven't what we've done for the past 6 years doesn't make it doesn't lead to anything. What we've done for the past 10 years didn't amount to anything. I don't want to admit that we are in another soft rebuild. For me, that would suck even more than where we are right now, which is purgatory. So yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm on the same page with you in that you tear it down probably to DeBrincat if you can get something for DeBrincat, I wouldn't be opposed as to tearing like him being the last guy, being the one that you had to move. But I think you tear it down to the cat. Wait, you still think about Justin Fart?
It's not about Justin Fart again, man.
You leave that L out of there, and Justin Fart, man. Okay, so we have a lot more, hopefully a lot more to come over the next few weeks as the Dylan Larkin drama starts to subside. You can try and figure out what ended up happening. Like Kyle said, the first is a date in which probably you think things will be at least ironed out by. We'll have an idea of what's going to be happening. Whether Yzerman's going to not be back into a corner and not be strong-armed and be stubborn and figure it out himself, or we're going to see, has Larks played the last game here at LCA? We'll have to see. So, okay, let's wrap up the show with our Grit of the Week. As always, Grit of the Week is brought to you by Pins and Aces, our favorite spot for all your golf apparel needs. Guys, Pins and Aces has been our sponsor since day one, since we started the podcast. We are giving our listeners 21% off any product at pinsandaces.com with using the promo code GRIT. It's summer. I don't know if Pins and Aces is going to be the official sponsor for the Gridiron Report moving into this upcoming season. So use this promo code while you can. Again, it's 21% off any product. All your favorite golf apparel needs. That's polos, that's head covers, that's golf bags, that's anything you need on the golf course. They have great quality, all U.S. made quality that applies and it has a bunch of fun different flares to it. So use promo code GRIT, G-R-I-T, at checkout at pinsandaces.com. Grit of the week, I will kick us off. My grit of the week is going to go back to Saturday. It's going to be none other than Kevin McGonigal, the kid. He is absolutely killing it for the Tigers right now. A number of different, a little bit too early MLB All-Star projections coming out right now. ESPN has released a few over the last few days. The Athletic has released a few. The one commonality across all of them for the Tigers, Kevin McGonigal is at least making a team. He might not start, but he's going to be a reserve for sure. Kevin McGonigal hits a walk-off on Saturday against the Seattle Mariners. A really important series. Today's series, they're playing the Twins right now. They're currently losing. Super important as well. But against the Seattle Mariners, Kevin McGonigal not only hits a home run in a 5-4 game, but then hits the walk-off hit. I think it was possibly a single. It was a 2-run walk-off hit from Kevin McGonigal. He is so disciplined. I think he's just one of two guys in the last 50 years to have the strikeouts to walk numbers or hits to walk numbers. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's him and Juan Soto back in 2018. So absolutely just so disciplined at the plate. You hope that maybe the power starts coming along. Obviously, he had a home run on Saturday, but he's doing everything else you can. There was a play, I think it was on Thursday. Him and How You Lee both went for a ground ball at the same time, kind of collided. McGonigal still was able to bare hand the ball, take flight, was literally parallel to the ground, still got the throw off, barely didn't get the guy at first base, but the play itself was insane. If he had gotten the out, it would have been an all-time play. Shout out Kevin McGonigal. He is this team, the Roosters are coming to Crow here for this team. I think that's what they say. And Kevin McGonigal is going to be a main part if they're able to turn this thing around.
Is that cannot be how that goes?
The chickens are coming to
the chickens are coming to roost. I think is a little closer.
They're crowing the roost. I don't know. Kevin McGonigal's good, dude.
Either way, Kevin McGonigal, grit of the week. Yes, dude. I mean, if we ever just one saving grace in this season. I mean, this season where we're probably going to lose Scooble at the deadline. It's going to suck. Absolutely nothing went correct except for Kevin McGonigal and maybe one other guy that I might talk about in just a little bit. But yeah, it's awesome. We have Kevin McGonigal for the next 15 years. I mean, knock on wood, anything can happen, but he is just such a bona fide stud that it's incredible to see. Sky's the limit for him, man. Grit of the week once more. I'm gonna go my grit of the week. Yeah, similar, man. This is a guy who just continues to rake. I think you may have given him a grit of the week last week or the week before or both, but grit of the week, Dylan Dingler, man, just hit his 15th home run of the season today. Yesterday, if you're listening on Wednesday, yeah, Dylan Dingler is the most valuable catcher in baseball this season with a 2.6 F/WAR. He's awesome, man. He was awesome last year. He's just really coming into his own. He can rake. He just has an absolute gun behind the plate, which, obviously is calculated into WAR as well. It's not just what you do at the plate. It's what he's doing behind the plate too. he's just awesome, man. It's great that you have just a above average hitter and just a crazy good fielder too, all in one in the catcher position. When, yeah, that replacement catcher is just horrendous. Like catchers are typically batting like 190. Like it's tough on their bodies. I'm not holding anything against them. And Dylan Dingler's just defying all odds and just raking. So yeah, grit of the week, the Dillinger man.
The Dillinger, the real ones will remember who the real Dillinger is. Yeah, I mentioned the little too early all-star projections that are coming out, and I mentioned Kevin McGonigal being one of the only commonalities across for the Tigers. The other one that we should mention, is Dylan. He has been not only just being kind of across all the boards, making everyone's projected all-star team. He's being a starter. He's expected to be the starter for the American League. He is absolutely destroying baseballs right now. The thing about Dylan, people forget that Dylan was an outfielder in college, and he's almost like a converted catcher, and he's still being able to do, so that obviously lends to him being, better offensively, but still is able to gun people down, like you said, behind the dish. Just so much trust that all of our pitchers have with him. A young pitching staff that we've had to go through a bunch of different guys because of all the injuries that we've had, to trust him, to take it in stride and just be as aggressive and as awesome as he is. It's just truly like he is turning into easily the best power hitter like on this team. If I mentioned Kevin McGonigal being a turning point for this team, I think Kerry Carpenter, who had a home run just a few minutes ago to give the Tigers the lead, he's going to be kind of a catalyst to get the Tigers team back on track. And then you need Dingler to continue to absolutely rake and lead this team from behind the dish. And so shout out to him, shout out to Kevin McGonigal. We'll talk about the Tigers a little bit more in the upcoming weeks, just because we'll have the trade deadline coming up here towards the end of July, I believe it is. And we, as you just mentioned, have a lot to talk about with Derek Skubal, but we have a lot more to talk about. So we'll get into them and how we see that going here shortly. Just a real quick behind the scenes next week, one of my favorite episodes of the year. No, I'm going to say it is my favorite episode of the year. We're going to be breaking down all the draft prospects for the NBA, who the Detroit Pistons can be selecting at 21, who's going to be there, who would help this team. This is my absolute favorite episode of the year. I spend way too much time reading about every single one of these players. So I cannot wait for us to just break down who's going to be there, who would help this team, what Detroit needs to be, or who Detroit needs to get in order to help them out. So tune into next week's episode to give you guys a little bit of ammunition for the NBA draft. And then the plan at the moment, again, let's pull that curtain back a little bit further. We're trying to do a live NBA draft podcast on what would be 2 weeks from now. So we're going to play that one by ear, but a lot of fun stuff coming up from our listeners. So that's it for this week's episode. You can find Kyle and I on Twitter at Dutton_Tyler and Kyle_Marino. You can find the podcast itself on Instagram and TikTok at Grit Iron Report, or on Twitter at Grit Iron Report 1. Or you can finally watch this episode, full-length episodes on YouTube. They're a little bit less edited, so if you're trying to find a few more of the Justin Fart jokes that likely will be there on YouTube. Finally, you can join the conversation next week by calling into the Grit Iron Report voicemail for us to play and discuss on the podcast. That phone number is 313-306-7939. If you guys like this episode, please take a moment to rate it 5 stars. Leave us a review saying so everywhere you find your podcast. Follow us on all forms of social media. Call that hotline. Leave some comments on all of our social media stuff. Give us your opinions on everything. We love interacting. It allows us, again, to give you guys all Detroit sports stuff. Thank you guys for listening.
Thanks, y'all. Restore the roar.
Yeah. Every highlight's a journey, roads paved with fire, sweat, tears, and hustle that never expire. From the rookies on the rise to the old hands retire. Grit Iron is the place for fans to conspire. Hustle on, blast beats, thundering loud. Champions are born from the roar of the crowd. The Grit Iron Report, where the stories are proud. Tune in, bring the heat, make your fandom a vow.